Hello everyone, welcome to sqadia.com, and now we will start section 3 of our lecture topic, menstrual cycle and hormonal disorders. In first two sections we talked already about the physiology of the menstrual cycle, and then we talked about some changes that are taking place in the ovary with the different hormones which are produced during the cycle. Now we will talk about the changes that occur in the endometrium of the uterus during the process of the menstrual cycle. In this section, we will talk about the changes which are occurring in the endometrium. Endometrium is the inner lining of the uterus. This endometrium during the process of the menstrual cycle get ready to receive the fertilized ovum if conception occurs. If the conception doesn't occur or if the ovum doesn't fertilize, then this endometrium, which is already very rich in different secretions with the glands, it's now shed off and then menstrual cycle starts. So three phases of menstrual cycle that occurs in the endometrium. One is proliferative phase, then we have secretory phase, and in the third stage we have shedding of the endometrium that takes place and leading to the menstrual cycle. So first, proliferative phase. This phase of the menstrual cycle lasts for about 9 days. And if you see in this diagram, proliferation, it's a lot of tissues and cells divide and multiply, and endometrium become very thick with the growth of the tissue. Proliferation of the tissues takes place in this phase, and these changes are mainly by the estrogen which is produced by the ovarian follicle, mature ovarian follicle. We already talked about this, and this ovarian follicle produces the hormone estrogen, which leads to the proliferation of the tissue in the endometrium lining of the uterus, and it is so much growth takes place that it becomes 2 to 3 times more thicker than the normal thickness. So in the proliferative phase of the endometrium, mainly the proliferation of the tissues takes place under the influence of the hormone estrogen produced by ovarian follicle, and this endometrium then become 2 to 3 times more thicker. Then in the second phase, which is the secretory endometrium, now you can see in this slide, these are the glands present in the endometrium, and they become really big and filled with secretions, and this is the secretory changes. And these secretory changes, proliferative changes, were due to estrogen produced by the follicle. That follicle then become corpus luteum, which is the yellowish body that produce progesterone. And then under the influence of that progesterone produced by the corpus luteum, the endometrium become secretory due to the development of the glands in the endometrium. So progesterone produced by the corpus luteum brings secretory changes in the endometrium. And then in this phase, progesterone is more and estrogen is also high, but the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone are in the low range. Now, shedding of the endometrium, if there is no fertilization takes place, if there is failure of conception, if the fertilization of the ova doesn't take place, then the corpus luteum, which was producing progesterone, that shrinks. And that shrinking of the corpus luteum causes decrease in the level of progesterone hormone. And with this decreased level of progesterone, shedding of the endometrium takes place. But if there was fertilization of the ovum, that fertilized ovum is embedded in the endometrium, and the corpus luteum then, instead of shrinking, continue to produce progesterone. That early level of progesterone by the corpus luteum is very important for the continuation of the early pregnancy. So corpus luteum, if no fertilization, no conception, it shrinks and there is no production of progesterone anymore. But with the pregnancy, corpus luteum continue to produce progesterone, and that increased level of progesterone is very important for the early maintenance of pregnancy. So here if you see, we have all the picture here. The first developing follicle in the ovary, this is the ovary. Follicle is developing, then this follicle mature, becomes Graafian follicle, and then this mature follicle again under the influence of estrogen, ovulation takes place. Here this is the release of ova. Ovulation takes place at about the 14th day of the cycle. These are the changes occurring in the ovary. These are the changes occurring in the uterus. So with the ovulation, this is the shedding of the endometrium, proliferative phase, in the middle ovulation, after ovulation, these are the secretory changes, and then again the premenstrual phase. So this is all the normal menstrual cycle. Changes in the ovary, ovulation, changes in the endometrium with fertilization, ova comes and embedded in this endometrium, and corpus luteum continue to produce progesterone. So in the third section of our lecture, we talked about the changes that takes place in the endometrial layer of the uterus, which are proliferative phase, secretory phase, and then the shedding of the endometrium. Thank you for watching sqadia.com.